it is 1956. A man sits down in front of a microphone, not to record a hit song or a radio drama, but to leave a message for his sales team while he is away on vacation. That recording, seemingly by accident, goes on to sell over 1 million copies, becoming the first spoken word recording in history to win a gold record. The idea at the heart of it is something we have all heard before and likely dismissed. But nearly 70 years later, the core problem identified by Earl Nightingale is more prevalent now than it was then. This is about the strangest secret, a concept that sounds deceptively simple on the surface, yet remains brutally difficult to apply. Today, we are going deep into the actual mechanism behind it and why most people fail to grasp it at a level that actually changes their reality.
It is fascinating because when you look at the setup Nightingale provides, he starts with a statistic that should stop everyone in their tracks. He asks us to visualize 100 men starting at age 25. They are all full of fire, bright-eyed, and if you asked any of them, they would say they want to be successful. But by age 65, the data tells a different story. 1 is rich, 4 are financially independent, 5 are still working, and 54 are flat broke. That is a 90% failure rate in terms of financial and personal autonomy. Most people immediately point to talent, intelligence, or luck as the variables, but Nightingale, after 20 years of study, argued that these are secondary. They are downstream from a much deeper issue.
Exactly. He identifies the culprit as conformity. He cites the psychiatrist Rollo May, who observed that the opposite of courage in our society isn't cowardice, it's conformity. People drift through life not because of a lack of ability, but because they are following the current without asking why. He referenced a study where 19 out of 20 men couldn't say why they went to work in the morning, other than because everyone else does. This is essentially operating on autopilot. From a sociological perspective, this is the social drift, where movement is mistaken for direction. Nightingale then flips the script by redefining success altogether. He says success is not a destination or an outcome. It is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal.
That definition is load-bearing, progressive realization. It implies that success is a process, not an arrival. By this logic, you are successful the moment you begin moving deliberately toward a goal that matters to you. This means a teacher who loves teaching or a mother who chooses motherhood with full commitment is successful. Conversely, someone earning millions who just ended up there by following a path they didn't choose is by this definition a failure. It shifts the metric from the outside in to the inside out. The 5% who succeed aren't just more capable, they are more intentional.
Which brings us to what he calls the strangest secret. He points out that while the great thinkers of history have disagreed on almost everything, theology, politics, science, there is one single point of total unanimity. Marcus Aurelius said, "A man's life is what his thoughts make it." Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "A man is what he thinks about all day long." William James called the ability to alter life by altering the attitude of mind the greatest discovery of his generation. And the distillation is this: we become what we think about.
I can hear the skeptics already. It sounds like an inspirational poster or magical thinking. But Nightingale isn't suggesting you can just visualize a luxury car into your driveway. He's talking about something closer to what modern cognitive science calls attentional filtering. When you have a clear, defined goal, your reticular activating system begins to prioritize information that aligns with that goal. You start noticing opportunities that were previously invisible. It is not magic. It is the behavioral alignment of the thought shaping the action and the action shaping the outcome. The problem is that most people never aim at anything specific enough for this cognitive filtering to actually begin.
He uses the metaphor of 2 ships to illustrate this. One has a captain, a crew, and a charted course. The other has fuel and engines, but no captain and no destination. Both leave the harbor. The first reaches its destination 99 times out of 100. The second either sinks or runs aground. The terrifying part is that both ships look the same while they are in the harbor. They both look busy and functional, but only one is actually going somewhere. This is the 95% problem: movement without a map.
And the reason we don't use this map, our mind, is because it's free. Nightingale observes that we only value what we pay for. We invest in laptops, courses, and gym memberships, but the mind, which is standard equipment at birth, is treated as the default option. To explain how it works, he uses the metaphor of a farmer and a field. The land is extraordinarily fertile and doesn't care what you plant. If you plant corn, it grows corn. If you plant nightshade, a deadly poison, it grows nightshade with equal abundance. The mind doesn't judge, it doesn't protect you from yourself. It simply returns what you cultivate.
That is a haunting realization when you apply it to anxiety. If you spend your mental energy dwelling on fear, doubt, and what could go wrong, you aren't just worrying, you are actively cultivating a future of failure. The mind faithfully grows those seeds. This aligns with the concept of neuroplasticity. The neural pathways we use most frequently become the strongest. If you allow the wind of external circumstances to choose your seeds, you end up with a field of weeds. The antidote isn't just positive thinking, but the presence of a specific, concrete aim that occupies the mental space before weeds can take root.
He reinforces this with the image of a 30-ton bulldozer. You are the driver of this massive machine of capability. You can sit with your arms folded and watch it run into a ditch, or you can take the wheel and point it toward a construction site. The machine doesn't run itself toward good outcomes. Without a driver, power is just a source of destruction. This is why Nightingale is so insistent on his 30-day test. He asks you to write your goal on a card and look at it every morning, afternoon, and night. Every time a negative thought surfaces, you must consciously redirect your attention back to that card.
That test is where theory meets the brutal reality of the human condition. People think it sounds easy until they try it. Nightingale is honest. Negative thinking is the default. It requires zero effort. Directed, positive thinking is genuinely hard work, which is why only 5% of people do it. The test isn't about the card. It's about building the habit of command over your own mind. He quotes Dorothea Brande, "Act as though it were impossible to fail." It's a behavioral psychological approach. The acting reshapes the believing, not the other way around. You don't wait for confidence. You act with intention until the feeling follows.
There is also a rigorous economic component to his argument, the relationship between service and reward. He points out that most people have the equation backwards. They want the heat before they put the wood in the stove. They say, pay me more and then I'll work harder. But success is the cause and money is the effect. Real success comes from providing something genuinely useful to others. If you are focused on a worthy aim, you naturally orient towards service and contribution. If you are just drifting, you are sitting in front of a cold stove wondering why you aren't warm.
When you pull it all together, Nightingale's framework is an architectural masterpiece of human potential. He starts with the empirical observation of failure, diagnoses the cause as conformity, explains the mechanism of the mind of the field, provides a practical 30-day protocol, and anchors it in the law of service. It rests on the uncomfortable assumption that most of us are currently asleep, operating on a frequency of habit rather than choice.
He calls it the strangest secret, but then immediately admits it isn't a secret at all. It has been hiding in plain sight for millennia, etched into every sacred text and philosophical tradition. The strange part isn't that the information is hidden, it's that so few people ever choose to pick up the wheel. We are left with a question that isn't rhetorical, but existential. If this mechanism is confirmed by history, philosophy, and modern science, if it is this accessible and this free, then you must ask yourself, why haven't you used it yet? Your mind is the field, and the harvest is already growing. The only question left is who chose the seeds.